Welcome to Exist.
Ay, microphone gusto nyo?
Narinig naman ata sa likod. Mic. Ayos.
Nagre-request ng mic. Mic na. Hoy, gumagana ba yan?
Maganda to.
Thank you for attending the meetup. And welcome sa mga, welcome to the community. Napalit namin sa Exist venue for couple of, hindi isang taon ata. Months ba? Yeah, I think matagal nang nawala dito sa Exist meetup.
Yeah.
So yeah, welcome to Exist. I'm Richard Gonzales. I'm one of the release developers dito sa Exist. Medyo sobrang haba. It's like a mouthful yung title, but it's just simply creating a web app and make sure that it serves some other devices or any other clients that might talk to your application. And since nandun na rin, we're talking about clients, also wanted to pitch in how we could initially integrate it to a hybrid mobile app. I guess you know what hybrid means. So about us, Exist, if you haven't checked our website yet, you can go to exist.com. This is our services. We do application development in Java and Rails, interactive designs and mobile development, and we also have a QA and system testing works. Ako naman yun, developer, designer, UI, UX lover, classical, kape. If you follow me on Twitter, I have 5 followers, I guess. So please, nagmaka-away. Kasi there's some stuff na pag marami ng followers, you can actually update it. And my website is not updated, so don't you ever go. Siguro that's mga articles ko rin 2 or 3 years ago. So initially I wanted to talk about the state of mobile web development. So the data that I got are information from 2011. Unfortunately, they haven't released 2012 data yet. So here's the studying stuff about the state of mobile web development ngayon. If you could see, nag-negative yung mobile Safari. It's because sobrang lumakas yung Android. This is because, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there are around 300 variants of Android operating system or stuff. So Filipinos have their own brand of cell phones, and I think we have qualified Android for that specific purpose. So sobrang dami ng players na mobile Safari can only be found on an iPad, on an iPhone, or any other iOS devices. So that's the very significant part of it. And if you can see also, Opera is almost dying, but Opera Mobile is growing. So I think hindi pa sumama dito yung player which is Chrome, Mobile Chrome, which was released this year. So these are data from last year. So explosion of interest of activity by developers from a developer's perspective on HTML5, which we all know is still undergoing the process completely. Itself. And developing native apps for mobile platforms like iOS, Android, UC, web technologies. So 162% increase in developers using HTML5 APIs. I remember a few years ago when we were doing a lot of websites for our client in Australia, we never used HTML5 the setup. But lately, you can see almost all of the websites that we see right now that you frequently visit under the HTML5 factor. So that's 162%. That's actually a very big bang. For the website testing across wide range of mobile devices, yun, nag-jump naman siya. We are not only testing it now for iPhones, we're also testing it for the Safari iPad, the Android phones, the Android tablets, Opera mobiles, and so nagkaroon ng variance because of the influx of the number of devices that we use right now. Then most developers have to test it on these browsers, mobile browsers. confidence in developing native apps using HTML5 has grown. I guess ang isang drawback dito is yung press release ng Facebook na they stopped using the HTML5 way and went native instead. But it had been found by a lot of people if you have read through some blogs. So, ang pinaka-ginagamit na feature ng HTML5 is the geolocation stuff. So, I guess everybody knows that the web storage, the local storage, the drag and drop features, the selector APIs, the web sockets, and file APIs and web workers. So, these are very significant APIs that have been used 2011 to 2012. Also, interest in developing native apps using web technologies. The ever-dubbed jQuery Mobile still leads the mobile.js frameworks. So, among the target platforms na covered using the native apps and hybrid apps or iPhone, iPads, and Android. So, if you can see, mas mataas pa rin yung rating ng targeted phones, which is 90% for iPhone. Mostly because of the stuff na mas maraming nag-adhere, downloading and buying it on the App Store. With the JavaScript frameworks, jQuery Mobile still leads, but JQTouch and Zepto lately integrated because if you go to jqtouch.com, you can see their GitHub, like integrate na yung JQTouch and Zepto, and they are now in Gonzales. So, yung tatlong yun na nasa gilid, I think, hindi ko na nabasa universities, but I think they merged lately. So, for the 2012 internet and mobile trends, the internet growth remains robust. Rapid mobile adoption is still in the early stages. Ito yung isang malaking factor kung bakit. One reason why I also did the talk about this is because, yun nga, nasa early stages pa siya ng adoption. When we say nasa early stages pa ng adoption, either kukunti pa lang talaga. So, not unless you're into augmented reality, wherein I think very select lang yung mga developers na kaya pa talagang gumawa. Then, if we ride on the mobile trends, I think we're on it. The Philippines is fifth among the global internet users. China tops it. Mas mataas pa tayo when it comes to the global internet users kaysa US. So from 2010, this research is ngayong taon na, that's 2012. Nagkaroon ng 8% growth on the global internet users. What's significant is there's a 37% growth in the mobile 3G subscribers. So that means a lot of people are shying away from the 3210s. Usually, nilalabas lang naman natin yung mga Nokia phones natin pag sasakay tayo ng jeep or ng bus. Like, I know a lot of people is doing that. Pero yung mga smartphones nyo, you keep it inside your bag, but essentially, you either have two phones in your pocket. So, the recent survey naman sa NTC, I think there is around, for every 10 people, there are 8 people who have phones. But for every 10 people, there are only 3 persons who have their own CR. Was the latest finish of Jessica. But yeah, Android phones rank 4 times faster than iPhones. It's because of the influx. Mas mura kasi yung Android phones, and you have a lot of varieties. So with Samsung, LG, you name it. Ito yung mas makulit, the internet usage surpassed, the mobile internet usage surpassed desktop internet usage in India May this year. If you can imagine, sa amin, matagal pa namin pinipredict na yung mobile internet usage natin is mag-cross with our desktop internet use dito sa Pilipinas, but in India, they did it last May 2012. So, another trend is the versus stuff about the HTML5 apps versus the HTML5 or the mobile websites or the mobile sites versus the downloadable apps. So these are options na tinitingnan ng mga companies. NFC, unfortunately, if you're an iPhone, you don't have this yet. Everybody have been praying for this. Pero no, wala. If you're on Android, you are you're blessed kasi meron kayong NFCs. So, yung common applications for payment, for offers, or loyalty stuff. Rapid enterprise adoption of tablets to productivity. One notable product nito is, I think, our Mercurial product have an iPad interface as well. So, aside from the desktop or the web stuff or the applications that you see, doctors have an iPad or an iPhone and they can interface with the application itself. So the tipping point is 50% of the population in developed markets will have smartphones, essentially. And isa pang factor is the gamification. If you can see, most of the apps that we download right now, they have this game factor in it. Kasi yun talaga yung nag-trigger din ng usage. Babalik-balikan mo. Lately, I downloaded Lulu. I don't know if Lulu is local. I think they are. Are they local? Yeah. Sobrang ganda, sobrang slick yung interface nila. So it's just like you're gonna review a specific restaurant or a place and everybody starts reading your reviews as well. Yun, pinakamalaki siyempre is empowerment. Everybody has now access to social media. Kahit nasa gym ka, nag-tweet ka, or you go on Facebook, or you take a picture na may nahulog na babae pag nag-day, or bigla na lang may bumagas sa baba na kotse. Take a picture, post it on your Facebook, tweet about it. Baka biglang sikat ka pa. If you're an MRT, siguro, start nagging somebody who's taking a video of you with a vibe. So that's empowerment. Yun yung pinakamalakas na factor dito. So, kalimutan ko yung source. KPCB.com have this. This is from them. The imagination of nearly everything. Because of the new devices that we have right now, they range from yung nano or some other eye shuffle that you can actually put on your wrist, or the tablets, or yung Windows 8, or whatever devices, plus the connectivity that we have right now, plus the UI interface, the sobrang savvy and sobrang ganda, and the beauty of it. This is actually reimagining almost everything in almost all of the industries. So this is not a small factor that's happening on IT. This is not something na exclusive lang sa atin. This is happening globally because mobile is global and it's affecting almost all of the industries. So I guess if we have this, we have the devices and we have the connectivity. I guess the UI and the beauty itself, yun na lang yung kailangan natin i-factor in. So what's an API-Centric? Sabi ko na, it's not too complicated. So the main factors of an API-centric web app is it executes most, if not all of its functionality through API calls, and it is stateless. When we say stateless, it doesn't have a session. So if you're on your phone and hindi ka naman pumunta sa browser, then wala kang session doon. So it can't recognize API calls per session. Works not based on the state of the current user, but rather its functionality. So if you open your application on, para prepare mo yung application mo for API usage, then you're actually preparing it for a lot of possibilities that you can integrate into. Like Facebook, diba? Isang sample na lang eh. Like Facebook, may awat kasi sila eh, but essentially it's still running on API. So if you're on your phone, if you're on the browser of your phone, you can go to Facebook, still use Facebook. Ano yun? Since nandun ka, hindi siya using APIs. But if you're on the app itself, then it is using the APIs of Facebook. It's connecting by that purpose. If you're on your Android, it's doing the same thing. If you're using Twitter, that's the same. So, ito yung isang example. If you have an API-centric app, the browsers, iOS apps, Androids, mobile phones, etc., they just interact with your application. So just look at your web application as that rectangle at the center. BlackBerries or OS X. So sa mobile development naman, we have 3. But I think the latest idea that works, I think that the guy mentioned it was 4. I forgot the last one, but let's just go through the top 3. native applications, these are the iOS apps that you create using Objective-C. And if you want to create an app for Android, then you have to know Java. I guess if you want to create something for BlackBerry, you have to know something else. I haven't ever owned a BlackBerry. Yeah. That's a native. Native, the advantages of native is, ito na yung pinaka slickest. Ito na yung pinaka the best siguro when it comes to mobile development. Kasi you actually directly integrate with the phone's functionalities in itself. So if you compare a hybrid mobile app to a native app runs faster. It feels slicker because it's native. The UIs that you use are technically native. Sa mobile web naman, dito na natin pag-uusapan yung responsive web design, graceful degradation. I guess everybody knows Twitter Bootstrap, Foundation, Preserve. Sabi pa, I think there are a lot of players when it comes to bootstraps that we can use. So this is just essentially, if you have a website, gawin mo siyang responsive so that it responds to specific devices. So either you use Modernizer or you use some jQuery stuff. The problem with this is, if you have a website, a big website, and ginawa mo siyang mobile, hindi ka gumawa ng another instance or another application for it. Baka yung bigat na nandun sa website ko is the same na dinideliver niya sa phone mo. Unfortunately, your phone is a phone. It's not a desktop. So we don't treat the phone like how we treat the desktop. Siguro when the time comes na mas halos kasing powerful na yung phone mo when it comes to processing, memory, and everything else, like your laptops or your desktops, and I guess that's the time that we could actually create something na yung website would be the same. But when it comes to being responsive, you have to be picky. You even have to do away with a lot of contents. You have to do away with, if I'm not mistaken, if you download a 5 megapixel picture on your iPhone will actually not download it. Luluwan siya. Kasi merong limit. So, when it comes to being mobile, you have to be picky with the contents as well. Take note that a mobile device has a pretty limited real estate. So, kung ano lang yung mga essentials na gusto mong ilabas doon sa device, then yun lang ang pwede natin ipakita. Now, the hybrid mobile applications naman, this is using the hybrid mobile frameworks or some of the mobile JS frameworks that we have right now, and practically employ HTML5 and CSS3. We'll discuss the third one in details. Among the mobile JS frameworks, this table is from codeconfessions.com. They have these parameters: native experience, performance, cross-platform, features, efficiency, and license. Among the top, ang pinakamataas is jQuery mobile pa rin. Pero if you look at them, maganda, nagustuhan ko yung ginawa nilang study kasi yung comparison is not on a very specific point lang. Any of you have used Kendo UI? If you've used Kendo UI, ang problema niya lang is may license yan. So if you look at the license column, isa lang yung score. Kasi you have to buy the mobile kit, you have to buy it as a license. So that makes it pretty limited for usage. But I know a lot of guys who have been using Kendo UI. So, pero if you look at Kendo UI, when it comes to the native experience, siya yung pinakamataas. So I guess that's the reason why they had it licensed para ma-sustain din yung cost. When it comes to the native experience yun, pagtatap si Kendo UI and si jQuery Touch, the native experience. When it comes to performance, jQuery mobile pa rin and Kendo UI. Now, I used jQuery mobile a year ago and I hate it so much because they weigh a lot. Sobrang bigat niya. Ang dami niyang mga CSS and JS stuff na kailangan nilo. I guess na nagbago na sila. Yung pagiging cross-platform naman, it's jQuery mobile and Kendo pa rin. For the features, sobrang mataas yung feature ng Sencha Touch. So I guess that's when we say feature, that's the interaction that's using, take note na these are JS frameworks and we're talking about mobile. How can this JS framework actually utilize the native features of your phone, like accelerometer, location, etc. Kung nasa network ka, everything. So sa kanya si jQuery Mobile. When it comes to efficiency naman, JQ Touch. And for the license, yeah, they use JQ Touch. Yeah, another fun part with JQ Touch is if you know Zepto.js, yeah, nagsama sila. Website siya. So I guess if ever you wanted to choose among this, but please don't use them barely if you're doing it for a client or production. Make sure you hire a good designer to actually do this stuff. So you can use this matrix if ever you want to pick any of the JS frameworks that you wanted. If you have a project for a mobile application. For the hybrid mobile frameworks, nilagay ko na lang yung wiki kasi sobrang dami. But for the purpose of looking at it, let's look at it para makita nyo gaano siya karami. Wala. Yun. So, ito yung matrix. Kung may oras kayo mamaya, gusto nyo tingnan. Mahaba. So, that's the reason why binigay ko na lang yung wiki. Medyo mahabang usapan to if we talk about all of this. But, for the demo later on, I'll be using PhoneGap. If you look at, you can go to Espresso. Maganda rin yung setup nila ngayon. So I guess every month they keep on innovating some new stuff. So I guess if you're trying to pick for the frameworks that you wanted, so yun nga, one factor is using JS. The JS you discussed natin kanina. Second is the hybrid app framework that you can use. So you can go to the wiki and look at it. I just can't promise you how often this is updated, but this is technically the base. Yeah. So yung mga green, naka-highlight naman kung ano yung mga hindi supported na stuff. Kasama natin yun, nandito yung roads. Row mobile. And I think WorkLight is with IBM right now. Ang istorya ng WorkLight is, these are two guys, Pakistani guys. Naghahanap si IBM ng technology that they can use or buy para sumabay sa race ng mobile app development, and they bought WorkLight. So dalawang tao lang may-ari ng WorkLight, and binili sila ng IBM. So, andito pa rin syempre si Titanium. Furnace, hindi ko pa nagamit. Yeah. But if you have time, you can go look. By the way, the presentation is available on our Exist SlideShare account. You can check it out and you can download it if you want. So yeah, those are the mobile frameworks. If you wanted to choose, or if you wanted to pick a specific, or if you wanted to undergo study, I guess that's where you have to start first. Then go with the versus. PhoneGap versus Titanium, PhoneGap versus Row Mobile, PhoneGap versus stuff. So you can actually find it. Good. I have a sample demo para to see how it works as well. This is These demos are very rough on the edges. Just parang sample lang on how we could actually see it work. It's on my GitHub account and it's also uploaded on Heroku. I was trying to create an Android app kasi nga what I'm planning to do is the web app will be deployed to Heroku. I will create an iOS app and create an Android app and see if they work. So parang ganun setup. So unfortunately, naka-mountain lion ako. There's an issue with Java 6 and Java 7 virtual machines, and yung AMP version ko is lower version. So PhoneGap Cordova doesn't work anymore. Okay, so wala natin. So this is the app. This is on Heroku right now. This is the homepage. So yun. Responsive na siya kasi naka-Twitter bootstrap. Tapos I also created an iOS app using PhoneGap Cordova. This is now actually using so this is the interface, the JQ Touch. I think this is the native interface, the JQ Touch. One reason why I selected it is medyo okay yung design, medyo okay yung interface. So what I used is for the mobile, what I used is JQ Touch, Zepto, PhoneGap, and created it on iOS. So you have to have an Xcode. If you want it, you can download it on GitHub as well. For the web app naman, it's just a Rails application. So it's just a Rails application. Ito lang yung mga gem files na ginamit dito. So it's Rails 3.2.9 using device, Postgre for the database. Dahil naka-bootstrap, you have to use the less Rails and Taruga Eraser, Faker and Pabulator for fake stuff, and the ever awesome table. So yun lang. What it does is, you look at the routes, ganun lang. So naka-namespace lang yung API, and specific lang kung ano yung ilalabas natin. Ang resource dito, what the application does is, it's online, you log in, tapos you see the hit list. So parang try to pick na lang kung sino yung gusto rin patayin o i-execute. So, so, go, agent ka, no? So makita mo na yung mga pwede mo, ito naka-red, delikado to. Hindi na active, pwede mo. Hindi na action, ito baka pwede. Ito yung details niya. Okay. This should be my phone, and it's connecting to Heroku, getting all of this information. Okay. So how does that work? Kailangan lang nating dayain si device. So device have a token authentication module. So you can use the session token itself. So what it does is, essentially, what you have to do is make sure na yung tumatawag sa API services mo is allowed, it's authenticated now. Anybody can sign up on your site, but yung mga devices na pwedeng mag-connect sa API mo can actually harass it. So another approach is to create an app ID and a secret key. So this should be managed. Sa totoong buhay, dapat minamanage to. It should be in your database, somebody should be managing it. And what this means is, if you have an iPhone device, tapos ni-release mo siya, everybody starts downloading your iPhone device, application. Meron siyang app ID and secret key. This app ID and secret key will be used kasama yung username and password ng user mo to authenticate the user and to authenticate the device. So if you release an Android application, you should have a different app ID and secret key. So you should have a database of the app ID and the secret keys. So essentially, sa real world, you should be managing this. So sa example na to, we just wanted to make sure na yung pinadala ni device is nagmamatch sa nasa server natin. So pagdating naman sa API, ganun lang, sobrang dali lang. I-refactor nyo na lang, sobrang if-else condition pa to. So here's what happens. I-check nyo yung authentication token na binabato ni user, which is done by a JSON request from the device and papasok sa kung anumang routes natin. So the API is just responding to JSON. So I just use JBuilder para sa API responses niya. So sa hit list, ito naman siya. So let's say for example, dito, this is actually just requesting for the list of agents. So just using JBuilder, ito lang yung i-respond. One notable technique na natutunan ko from one of my friends is to keep your JSON naming conventions as small as possible. If you have been using XML, good luck sa'yo. Sana mag-JSON ka na. But yeah, if you're using JSON, then pwede yung pong tipirin yan. Take out that XML is pretty fat. JSON is at least slimmer. Pero you can make it at least more slimmer. Ang ginagawa natin dito is sort of obfuscation na rin. Pero kung gusto mo, you can define it any way you want. What happens is, ito yung mga JSON names niya. So yung AG is for agent, ST is for status. Ano ba yung implication nito? If you have a very big row or very big information na pinapadala, pag binawasan mo yung instead na agent name pa yan, binawasan mo pa rin siya ng ilang characters. It's still less fat. So since you're only talking to authenticated device and recognized device, then sigurado naman na mabuti yung coding doon. Not unless you're really serving this openly to the public like Facebook, na meron specific naming conventions like albums, photos, username, then you have to. But if you're serving this exclusively for yourself or for the application that you're using, you must at least try to make it as slim as possible. So, mas manipis yung data na pinapadala mo sa device, mas mabilis may padala, mas mabilis may interpret. So, yun. For the show, ito naman. Ganun din na approach. ID, AG, SF, ST. So this is actually the web app that's running on the roof right now. And if we look at the mobile app naman, so this is using Cordova 2.2.0. Ang nandito na lang sa text made is yung Huawei. So, but if you wanted to see the whole iOS, ito yung structure niya. So if you wanted to learn how to, I will not teach you how to create an application on iOS using Cordova. You can go to phonegap.com, click start, how to start something, and you just follow through. So I will not promise, although na magiging masaya if you do it on Android, just like what happened to me. So etong project kasi na to, medyo matagal ko na yung ginawa. I also delivered this talk to SourcePad. So yun na yung makikinig sila. So this is the Xcode. Also, if you're doing this on Xcode and you want to actually publish it, then you have to register as an Apple developer. Tapos, I think you can still download Xcode and do your stuff. Pero you can publish it or you can put it up on the App Store. So, dito naman, ito lang naman yung part niya eh. So, essentially, what happens is, itong index na to will be called by the wrapper na ginawa dito. And actually, it's just executing like creating a web UI dun sa code. Creating a web UI and it's running the index HTML. Take out the HTML lang natin. So, using JQ Touch dito sa taas, you download JQ Touch and you copy and paste all of the CSS files that's needed respectively for the JQ Touch and the images. Tapos yung mga JS na kailangan JQ Touch. So, yan lang siya. And the structure is, ang structure kasi ni JQ Touch is naka-div lang. So essentially, if unlike the behavior of a web application or a website, this usually gets displayed first lahat. JQ Touch kasi, yung naka-ID mo na home, yun muna yung lalabas. Then all of the other divs, you can actually manipulate every now and then if you want it. So we will be calling div IDs and putting on some of the values. So dito sa code, wala siyang value from the server itself. So this is mandatory to initialize JQ Touch. So you can change the theme if you want it. Meron namang iba-ibang theme si JQ Touch. Meron siyang native, meron vanilla, meron metal, etc. Yun. So, take note na itong mobile demo 001 is also the same as what we're evaluating dito sa application controller for the authorized method. Yun. So, and the application key is also the same. Phenomenon outcome is also, it's running pala on my local. Let's do this. Ang isang discrepancy na to, and you can actually update the code or if you wanted to extend it or something. Yung remember me, wala siyang remember me. So, pag pumunta ka sa app, maglalagin ka ng maglalagin. So yun. So it's now pulling from So yung console log naman sa iPhone or sa Xcode, pwede ko pa rin naman magamit siya. So all of the console logs that you execute dito sa code, you can still see it dun sa logs ni Xcode. So ito, yung pag-login, yun lang, ipapadala mo yung application ID and the secret key via Ajax. Ang isang lang is, you have to be aware of the ping time, the timeouts. I tried 300 pero nagka-timeout ako here. So what I did is, I think 2,000 is 2 seconds. So if ever you also have to handle dito sa error. So yung timeout can be handled here. So what it does is it just sends a GET request to your API. So take out, ito yung URL and API/logins.json. You are sending the email and the password value, the application ID and the secret key. So you're now validating the application ID and secret key. So pag in-authenticate ka ng web application mo, what you can do is so dadayain mo lang ulit. You can use Warden Authenticate, scope user, yung pinadala mo username and password, run Warden on it, check if there's a user, then reset the authentication token. The authentication token is a field on your user's column. If you're using device, you can enable it on your this one. You can use that, pwede mong i-utilize yung setup na yun. What it does is it actually creates a column. And whenever you log in, it resets the authentication token. So, the scenario is, if you're logged in on your phone, tapos pumunta ka sa website, nag-login ka ulit doon, you can actually reset the authentication token. So, hindi na valid yung token mo sa phone. That's a disadvantage. Tapos, yun. Pag na-reset nyo na yung authentication token, ipadala mo lang ulit. So, pag pinadala niya, babalik yan dito sa success. Check natin kung may authentication token. Now, one reason why I use PhoneGap Cordova is because it has access to the local storage. So, it is, I think, a sin to put your session tokens on JS. So, the best location na pwede mong paglagay na, I guess, if you're on your phone, is the local storage. The local storage is yun. Isa-set mo lang yung item, the name of the, parang key pair. So, the key and the value. So, the string data that access the token. So, ang ginawa ko naman dito is, kung naalala niyo pa yung mga panahon nyo ng QBasic, yung GoTo, dito ko lang ulit nakita sa JQ Touch, nagiging masaya kayo, may GoTo din dyan. What it actually do is, go to that div, do an animation, so slide effect. So yung nakita nyo ganun, pag login ko, nag-slide siya, tapos release niya. So the event, the agent's ID is actually, is, ano lang siya, UL lang siya. Tapos, may agent list na ID. So, ito actually yung dinisplay niya. What it does is, pagka-slide left niya dun sa agents na div, so yung div na yun ang i-display niya na. Merong pwede mong i-bind using Zerto yung page animation end. So yung animation end mo, you can actually trigger an event pag nag-start yung animation, yung pag-slide, or yung pagkatapos. So what I did is, kung natapos na yung pag-slide niya, it will execute an AJAX call again to the API. Hihingin niya yung hit list. Yun na yung list ng mga agents in JSON format. What it does is, ibabato niya yung access token mo na lang. Okay, hindi na yung username and password. Since na-authenticate ka na nung warden, then yung token na lang pwede mong gamitin ulit with device. But you have to send the application ID and the secret key as well. Okay? So pwede mo naman kasi kunin yung authentication token and start using it. So you still have to use this. So pagbalik naman niya, you just have to check if ilan yung binalik niya. Then using the append function, parang i-concatenate mo lang lahat ng nilabas niya, put it in LI, then append it to the item. The item is, item, bibuild mo lang siya, then i-append mo dun sa agent list. Agent list is the UL, so you actually are building a list. Pag nag-build ka na ng list, dun mo na makikita yung, ito na, this is now the list. So, this one, tapos yan, are actually, ito, yung ID, yung ID sinet ko sa data agent ID. AG is yung agent name, ST is for the status. So, yun, tapos na siya. Tapos tap mo ulit dito. Yun. It's actually making another call, your API, which is executed dito. The document on click agent item. Take note the dot agent item, yung class na yun is, so any of your list, the list of agents. What it does, it will actually just create another request to your API. Take note that your API host is ito. Yan, yung nasa Heroku. So you will be creating a request again using the authentication token pa rin, app ID and secret key to the agent ID that you saw. Kasi show siya. So babalik niya lang yung agent information. Makita niya LI agent name, LI agent status, LI agent info, then mag-go to ka ulit dun sa agent div. That is actually this area. Then, So pinapilate mo lang yung data, yung value niya. So if you go back to the tapos si yung show. Ito ba? Ay, balik. Append, sorry. May bug. Dapat i-clear mo muna. So you have to clear the sorry. Balik. Ito. I-clear mo muna yung HTML nun. HTML contents, i-cut, remove HTML or gawin mo empty string. So, yung nakikita niyo dito. Hahaba na. Yun. Fuck, my bad. So, yun. So, that's the sample. I was trying to create another Android app sana to show you the a different application ID and secret key. Tapos i-validate natin dun sa server. So, simulating na you have an iOS app, you have an Android app, a BlackBerry app. All of them with different application IDs and secret keys. All of them are connecting to your API, making a request and responding specifically. So, that's the little demo I have. Any question? Like, you'd be asking some stuff about the code. So, you should, yes, sir.
Yeah, actually kasi may interested din ako sa ganyan klase ng apps. So, inisip ko, kung aralin ko pa yung Android, native Android development or kahit PhoneGap na.
Ito I'm not an iOS dev. I've been trying to, but I just couldn't do it. I'm registered ako na Apple developer, but I never had a chance to do an Objective-C. I'm also not an Android app developer. And PhoneGap is a utility na pwede mo gawin. You don't really need to study. What I usually do is, if I need geolocation or I need paano makita kung nasa 3G ba siya, nasa network ba siya, or kung anong type, nandun lahat yung documentation kay Corvo. Kung nakikita nyo dito, I'm not talking about any specific language aside from JS. If you know jQuery, lahat ng nandito is actually in jQuery itself. So, ang knowledge lang na kailangan mo is HTML5, HTML, JavaScript, siguro konting JS. You can go to Zepto, or if you wanted to use Backbone.js or Mustache, add additional stuff. Those are my documents. So, when it comes to the learning curve, mas gusto ko pala itong approach na to. But I don't really need to learn Objective-C or Android itself and still create a mobile application. Pero yun nga, if your client demands a native app, kung gusto niyong pag-aralan pa yun, then you have to tell them na you have to get started. What makes a hybrid mobile application, yung impression kasi dito is mas cheap. Yun ang impression from the latest IBM DevWorks seminar. I think nandun din si Brian Devco, nandun Sinasabi nila na it's cheaper to do it this way. And actually, IBM invested on WorkLife for this purpose. So if you check out WorkLife, makita mo yung ginawa ng IBM sobrang ganda ng structure. Yun, JS, HTML, you just have, kung minsan nga, hindi mo na kailangan, kung meron kang Rails developer, can do the API for you, then you just have to talk to him. Hey Brad, kailangan mo na ganitong field, ganitong value, ganitong volume. So, another factor is, will you process the computation sa server or dito, sa client? Well, kung intensive yung computation, then you have to do it sa server. Pero kung hindi, then let your client will do the computation for you. So, Cordova, I did not study Cordova. So, I just studied some of the HTML5 stuff and JS.
Other questions?
Questions? Yes, sir.
Yung mga hardware-specific na functions sa mga mobile devices, di ba, ano siya, respectively supported nung kung anong JS framework.
yung gagamitin mo.
Oo.
So definitely, yung mga libraries with respect to iOS as well as Android, kailangan mo rin talaga matutunan. In terms of sa usage ka ng hardware functions like yung sa accelerometer.
Kailangan mo pa rin namang malaman yun. Pero ang advantage kasi na binigay ni Colgap is ginawa nila yun para sila. So meron ng set of functions that you can use. There are quirks, unfortunately. Nilalagay naman nila sa website nila or sa functions nila na if you want to use this function, here's what you do for iOS and here's what you do for Android. So yung sinasabi nilang isang code base lang, you have to think twice. If you're on an intensive na application, I don't think it will happen na isang code base lang talaga yung gagamitin. Because essentially, the device performance feature or kung ano man ang in-open niya for the JS itself is magkaiba with the iPhone and the Android. So as BlackBerry and other device. Ang maganda sa kanya is tinarget ni PhoneGap yung maraming variety ng mobile phones and devices, and yun din yung weakness niya. Kasi sa sobrang dami ng scope niya, take note that this is open source. So hindi naman kaya ng mga developers yun. Kahit nga mag-isa yung documentation, nag-aaway-aaway pa din. If you go to the Google group ng Apache Cordova, nakikita mo doon maraming reactions. So kung minsan, pag nag-release sila, yung documentation, binabago nila pag dinidiscuss na sa group. Hey, you should change the documentation na ganito. Okay, it's updated now. Yun. So, hindi lang yung Apache Cordova talaga yung titignan mo. Pati yung mga groups and the communities who use it, who develops it, and enhances the system. Pagdating sa devices yun, magkaiba. There are quirks and hindi naman nila sinasabi na lahat talaga pare-pareho na na-cover nila. Can you imagine this thing actually covering all of this varied phones? No, if you wanted to target all of these devices with a single app, then mas cheap na nga. If you get an iOS guy who will develop an app for it, then I guess it will cost a lot. And for Android, we're very rare naman. Halos wala na sa Philippines.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, pinakamaganda ang PhoneGap, for example, sa pag-fetch ng data galing sa web app mo, gano'n na. Hindi siya yung maganda pag mag-input ako, mag-blog post ako, tapos ipapost nito sa
Okay. One, hindi na nagiging native. There were conversations about that stuff. When it comes to judging if this is the best, I'm not in the position to say. I guess it depends on your client kung ano yung gusto nilang preference. Yun. Wala na?
Ano?
So, then you can, if you want to see how the code is done, you can go to my GitHub account. You can download it and see it. The slide is also available on our Exist SlideShare page. You can download as well the slides.
Ay, may question na ako. Yung JavaScript na, yung Zepto, JavaScript Clutch, available din sila, kunyari, di ba, it had a wrapper para ma-execute mo yung HTML5. Pwede mo yung i-execute yung mobile app mo, yung HTML, JavaScript, and CSS using the native browser.
Actually, yun yung ginagawa niya.
Okay, so paano?
Take note, nasa Xcode ako. Di ba? Tapos HTML yung i-utilize niya. So, what it did
Parang
is...
app siya na nag-instantiate ng browser sa...
Oh, actually, if you wanted, you can actually publish this on the App Store. And Apple will take it. Because it's writing on Xcode. Yun nga lang, there are talks na medyo matagal yung approval ng mga hybrid apps compared to native apps. So, you have to weigh that in as well. If you're targeting, I guess, a release next month, then you have to finish it now para to pop. Pero if you wanted, you can publish it sa App Store. And if you wanted to create an app on Android for Google Play or Amazon, you can publish it on Amazon. So, so, what's next? So, kung talagang nakikita nyo na sobrang dami na na-request, like Facebook, if you're thinking of being the next Facebook, then you have to go to O2. Now, the main problem na na-encounter ko ngayon is, I don't know if, correct me if I'm wrong, that parang hindi pwedeng ilagay sa JS yung functionality ng O2. Yun yung idea. Mas ano kasi Brian?
Wala, hindi pa ako nag-O2 up.
Hindi ba? Well, sa mga research and mga experiments ko, wala pang JS component for
Purely JS na.
I don't think sana magkaroon. Kasi para nga ma-upgrade mo yung app mo to use O2. Unfortunately, wala pa. As of now. If you're that guy who wanted to.
May verification si Terence silang linggo yatang nag-try mag-uot sa...
Pwede naman siya sa JS, kaso parang dinidiscourage lang siya kasi parang in-expose mo yung keys mo. Yan lang.
Yun yung security. But if you wanted, kasi si Facebook, diba?
Kailangan mong mag-redirect ng browser instance mo sa provider mo para mag-authenticate sila doon.
Ang i-display mismo dun sa authenticate sa login screen mo is yung login screen ni Facebook. If you've used yung CRM system na malaki,
Diba?
hindi.
Ah,
Salesforce, yun, sa Salesforce naka-auto din yun. If you integrate their auto functionality sa mobile application mo, ang lalabas na screen doon is yung login system ni Salesforce. So with Facebook, di naman nila alam na gumawa ka ng sarili mong login tapos ibabato mo sa kanila if you're using auto. Nakikita mo yung login ni Facebook, yung generic na login, di ba? If you're integrating it with Twitter or Instagram or any other mobile apps, then you have to go through that process.
so parang hindi siya redirect, more like iframe na meron.
Pwede mo pwede mo. Kasi nga tatawagin mo siya, di ba?
Oo.
Tatawagin mo yun.
Yung usual sa browser, dinadala ka talaga sa sarili. Diba? Nagla lang sa phone, sa pagpapagawa. Pinapasok mo.
Ganun din kasi yung, let's take Facebook for example, di ba? So, bubunutin, hindi inaalaw ni Facebook na parang i-wrap mo siya sa iPhone. Dalawang option lang ata ang binigay ni Facebook, either yung redirect sa kanila or yung pop-up. Pero kung i-wrap mo siya sa iFrame, ayaw ni Facebook na ganun. Kasi pwede mo pa rin i-hijack yun sa iFrame. Well, pag iFraming is may hijacking pa rin siya. So, kung sobrang laki mo na talaga, sobrang massive na, then you really have to go there. Version Cake was just released a couple of weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. Sobrang ganda niya when it comes to versioning. Kasi one main issue pagdating sa API is how do you version your API? What's the implication nito? Let's say for example, ngayong araw nag-release ako ng version 1. So pwede yung version 1 na yun, hindi lang columns pa lang yung sinuserve ko. Then maybe next month, nag-release ulit ako ng version 2. And may bagong feature na kasama doon. So, hindi pa naman papatayin yung version 1 mo eh. Kasi baka yung phone ng client mo, hindi pa nag-upgrade sa new app na nirelease mo, then dapat valid pa rin yung nangyayari doon. So you have to go through versioning. Hindi ko pa napag-aralan masyado yung version cake, but I think meron silang comparative study pagdating sa versioning of APIs approach. You can go to their GitHub page, check out how they did it. Pero they're also using Liquid Transfer. Tapos, yun, I guess next is play with other devices. As far as I'm concerned, I've only been using Android and iOS. If you can have BlackBerry or Windows, etc., then you can use it. Tapos, yeah, these are the resources that I used for this talk. If you wanted, you can go to our SlideShare page, insys.com. You can download the slides. Any other questions? May malabo? Yeah.
Actually, may ginagawa kong app. Meron siyang part na kumukuha siya ng image galing sa app tapos i-preview na sa Android app. So, iniisip ko ita-download ko ba yung picture para mas mabilis or something.
May approach sa HTML5, pwede mo i-screen. Pwede mong hintayin hanggang may lumabas. Ang kung minsan, as developers, masyado tayong tinitingnan natin how the applications perform. If you're using Facebook on your mobile phone, makita mo yung picture ni Natalie Hayashi. Hindi ba medyo blurred? Kaya yung mga picture ni mo kauso na nakabikini, blurred pa, di ba? Kasi it's pushing mo na the low quality image. Then pag na-load na yung high quality image, saka mo nakikita nakabikini. There are approaches na there are JS libraries that you can use to facilitate that. So yun, this is the last slide. And if you don't have any other questions, tapusin ko na. Maraming salamat. Thank you for coming.